ESPN Steelers reporter Brooke Pryor, kind enough to spend some time with us. It's been a busy week for her. She is currently on the walk. Brooke, let us know where you're at. Welcome back inside the vault. It feels like it's been forever. That's what happens when I guess these two teams match up in the bottom third of the season. That's what they're about to do. The first of two in the closing 5 weeks starts on Sunday. What are you doing right now? And two, what's the state of your Steelers that you've been covering for years?
Well, it looks like I'm like Marty Smith, like camping out Lane Kiffin on his way to the private airfield, hanging out by this chain link fence. But in reality, I am at the Steelers facility. They are practicing indoors right now, which means that's where I usually do podcasts when I am at the facility during the day. But since they're in there, I can't be in there doing this. So therefore, I took my talents outside. So I am in the parking lot between the indoor facility and their like meeting rooms, locker rooms facility.
I'm like astounded by how good your audio is being outside. And like, I'm astounded by your commitment to the vault to be out here for us. So
well, just wait until the train goes by behind me. I'm right in front of train tracks. So that'll happen at some point, I'm sure.
All right. Well, Brooke, what is going on with the Steelers? Obviously, both these two teams are underachieving at 6-6. And yet here we are with the division on the line. Massive, massive game. And the Steelers just doesn't seem to have like a lot going. But let's start on the offensive side. What's happening there? And, I saw you get into it a little bit with Mike Florio and the receiver film room discussion. So fill us in on that.
Oh, man. Well, first of all, there's not a lot going on the offensive side of the ball, which is part of the problem. They are struggling to effectively, anything really move the ball. Part of that is because of Aaron Rodgers' fractured left wrist. Yes, it's his non-throwing wrist, but he did not go under center last week. That therefore limits the play action game. They weren't great at play action anyway, but still, I think it made this team just a lot more one-dimensional. They couldn't run the ball. They weren't passing the ball effectively. He's been missing receivers. He hasn't completed a pass beyond 20 yards, I believe, in a while. And it's just, it feels like is reverting to a version of himself that we didn't see early in the year. In the first 4 or 5, 6 weeks of the season, it felt like he was really getting the ball out of his hands quickly and getting the ball to his playmakers, and they were getting these yards after catch. And the last couple weeks, really the last month and a half, he's been holding on to the ball a lot longer. He says his receivers just aren't getting separation. They're not getting open. And then when he's had an opportunity to hit them, he's overthrown them, or they've run a route and he's thrown it to a different place, and they just haven't been on the same page. These are things that we saw during training camp as kind of being an issue. And now they're kind of coming back up again. And he was asked about how to get on the same page with his receivers post game on Sunday. And he said, well, one thing is that everybody can show up to the meetings on when we're our film review sessions. And then we can, when I call a play or when I change a route, you run the right route. And there was an interpretation of him saying, pass catchers show up to meetings, as guys were not showing up to meetings. And so when we had an opportunity to talk to him next on Wednesday, I asked him to clarify, what did he mean by saying pass catchers need to show up? Has there been an attendance issue? And he said, no, it's not an attendance thing. It's, when you come to the Thursday review session, come in with an open mind and lots of ideas. And he said, I don't want to talk about off the field stuff. I also asked Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith what Rodgers meant by that, if they took that as a shot. And Jonnu told me, no, I didn't think it was a shot at us. I think that, we're just not playing well right now. We're playing inconsistently, and we all need to get on the same page. So all of that happens. The Steelers had a snafu yesterday where they only posted, I think, 3.5 minutes of Rodgers' interview on the YouTube channel. And that was not intentional from what I understand. It's just a matter of, sometimes the video team isn't in place at the right time. They get to the scrum late. It happens. But there was no, trying to delete the footage, any of like, oh no, the cap was still on the camera lens. It was nothing like that. They posted the complete transcript. Myself and my other beat colleagues posted what Rodgers said. All of these things. Mike Florio apparently only watched the YouTube video and decided that none of us asked Rodgers about it, and that he also only talked for 3.5 minutes. wrote a whole post about it saying that it was collective malpractice for us not to ask him. And I had kind of had it at that point, and I posted the video clip where I asked him and the transcript and everything else. There was no apology, no nothing, just, a doubling down of it was still our fault. We didn't ask any follow-ups, anything like that. So, I mean, I guess where Aaron Rodgers goes, drama follows, even if it's not directly his fault. It's just, real beat reporters of the Pittsburgh Steelers, I guess.
Well, listen, I can tell you the Ravens fan base, Mike Florio is not their favorite. So the fact that you could, clap back a little bit, everybody, even as a Steelers reporter, I think even Ravens fans could enjoy that moment.
I mean, I try to stay above it on social media, but, when someone's saying that I didn't do my job and I did do my job, I had time yesterday. Yeah. And unfortunately for Mike Florio, he became the recipient of that time.
Well, we appreciate you carving out some time for us, Brooke, and we're glad we're on the right side of that time, by the way, not the wrong side. But it is Steelers week in Baltimore, and everybody's chatting about it. Obviously, whoever wins goes into sole possession of first place in this AFC North that has been described by some, including Marlon, as mid. The live chat's also referring to the matchup as mid, that modern term. So. Here is what Marlon, though, had to say specifically about it. Talk is cheap, man. And of course, this is a much maligned defense the first 5 weeks, right? And since then, this defense has really turned around to either average in some categories or above average in others. And we'll have to see if that takes shape over the next month or so. But Marlon's quote is, talk is cheap. How you play will speak way louder than your words. If you can't get up for this one, I think that shows something about your character. I think that shows something about your will. And honestly, I think that just shows if you are or aren't a Raven, this is definitely a must-win game. You've mentioned some of the health concerns over there. Maybe none bigger when it comes to this Ravens offense than Derek Harmon's absence extending. What are you expecting based on what they put on tape last week? Because Mike got up there this week, as you know, and said, hey, look, if you don't have bigs in the AFC North, you're going to be running on the beach. Classic wordsmith. I love watching his press conferences during these weeks. But what is your expectation coming off an embarrassment on their home turf against the Bills?
Yeah, it was their worst rushing defensive performance of the season. They gave up 249 rushing yards. James Cook just feasted on this run defense, and they were running the same 2 plays over and over and over again. That's what TJ Watt said was especially frustrating. And so from the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, not having Derek Harmon again is really frustrating, and they have got to make some adjustments. I don't know how you make those adjustments because you can't just conjure up a big man out of thin air. And by the way, this defensive tackle group has dealt with a lot of injuries this year that have been sneaky big. I mean, Dean Lowry was a veteran they re-signed in the offseason. He tore his ACL in the preseason. Daniel Ukale, another veteran, tore his ACL during the season. They just don't have necessarily a ton of depth up front. And that was a thing that they dealt with last year, which is why they drafted Derek Harmon. I mean, I vividly remember Mike Tomlin doing an interview with NFL Network that we saw during the draft where he said, I don't think I was out of the showers yet in Baltimore when I knew that we had to get more physical and that we had to increase that physicality, talking about the way that, this team lost in that playoff game, giving up 299 rushing yards, 186 rushing yards to Derrick Henry. And so this has been the focus of their offseason. I mean, Terrell Austin even said during minicamp that they had a Baltimore problem. They have to stop the run. And this is their first opportunity to see if they have been able to figure out how to stop the run, but they are doing it kind of with one hand tied behind their back and, their biggest acquisition not playing, at least their biggest draft acquisition not playing. Now, Y.A. Black, another rookie, has been playing well. I think that he's starting to come into his own. He had the forced fumble and fumble recovery against Chicago. He's a little bit longer, taller than Derek Harmon, isn't quite as stout. But I do think that he's playing well, and so I would look for him to be key in trying to stop Derrick Henry. But I mean, if Henry keeps bouncing to the outside and doing kind of what James Cook was able to do, they have got to figure out something. They talked about this week getting multiple hats to the ball. You can't be fooled by some of this pre-snap motion, things like that. It's just they've got to be better tacklers. It's just been really frustrating across the board, especially then when they have games like the one against Jonathan Taylor, where they held him to 45 yards on 14 carries. And then games like the ones they had to James Cook that were just terrible. So it's been incredibly inconsistent.
Well, so has the Ravens run game. It's interesting because I'm hearing all this, and you'd think that the Ravens could be licking their chops right now because you do have Lamar Jackson, you have Derrick Henry, and then you've got Keaton Mitchell emerging, and he can bounce outside, and he does threaten with his speed. So, like, I'm still wondering, like, can the Ravens repeat what the Bills did, or will the Steelers sell out and actually get him to get the stops because the Ravens guards are terrible. So, like, you see Derek Harmon gone, but I'm like, but still look at these guards that the Ravens are playing with. So I don't know. I don't know how it's going to play out. Do you have any like gut feeling? Do you feel like the Ravens will be able to be successful, or do you feel like the Steelers will be able to put together a gutsy performance and keep them to a reasonable number?
You know, I don't know. I don't know that I have a good feeling because, you know, yes, the Ravens guards aren't playing well, but last week the Bills were playing with 2 backup tackles, and that didn't seem to matter at all. So it feels like the traditional indicators that should kind of point you in a direction to guide how you think a game's going to go for the Steelers haven't mattered. And I think that that's part of the thing that's so frustrating is that when you have guys like TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith and Cam Hayward, and they are still ineffective against backup tackles. You wonder, like, okay, can they be effective against backup guards? Does that change the calculus? I think that this is a gut check game. I know for both organizations, but especially in Pittsburgh because they have lost 5 of the last 6. Last year, we know they ended the season with 5 consecutive losses, including in that playoff game. Mike Tomlin is hearing chants for him to be fired. Former players are saying that he should be fired. You know, this is the kind of game that in the past you would think, okay, the Steelers are gonna win this one because everything on paper says that they shouldn't, which is kind of how I felt about the Colts game. But like that, I felt like, okay, this is the kind of game they shouldn't win. They'll find a way to win, but that's not this season. This season, you know, if they're not supposed to win, they're not going to win. But then sometimes they find a little bit of magic. So I really have no idea how this game is going to go, which makes it fun. Maybe mid-offs are more exciting than like top tier playoff style matchups.
Mid-offs. Well done. Well played. Gosh, you just distracted me too. What the heck was I going to ask you? Oh, Patrick Queen. How would you evaluate his first couple of years there in the second level?
Well, I know that Trey Essex, former Steeler, has been on social media saying that he is not a fan of Patrick Queen. I think it's gone okay. I mean, I think that there's plays still out there that he could have made. He's had a lot of missed tackles, but he's also made a lot of tackles. Speaking from the media perspective, he's been the guy that I think really holds this team to account and is very much a heart and soul leader of this defense, even without being a captain. He's a guy that takes every loss really hard and he takes wins really hard, and that he is never satisfied. He is more upset after a win than I've seen anybody if you know if he feels like the defense didn't live up to its potential or if he missed plays. But I think that, you know, what he wants to do and what he is doing, sometimes his words aren't always matching his actions, just, you know, because of the scheme, because of talent, because of whatever it is. But right now, you know, it's going to be interesting to see if he's able to go on Sunday. He did not practice yesterday with that glute injury. I've seen him walking around the locker room. He's moving pretty slowly. I believe it was first reported as a back contusion. Mike Tomlin called it a glute injury, but it is definitely like back, lower body type thing. And something like that, I mean, that can be something that would really limit him in what he's able to do in the role that they need him to do it.
Can you give us some other updates on injuries here? Obviously, Derek Harmon can't go. What about TJ Watt? He didn't practice. He's got the toe. Has he been healthy?
Yeah, I mean, this was the first time that I've seen this toe injury pop up. He usually has at least one rest day during the week, so I wouldn't be surprised if yesterday was a planned rest day, but he also had the toe injury pop up and they just listed it as a toe. They're getting ready to practice now, so that's something that I will be definitely monitoring, and we'll keep an eye on that practice report when that comes out. Other injuries, James Pierre has a concussion and he's in the protocol. If he can't go, that means Asante Samuel Jr. will end up starting, I believe, who they just called up from the practice squad and is now in an even bigger role since they released Darius Slay, who was claimed by the Bills but is now not reporting. That has just been a very fascinating thing to watch. I think most of the injuries are on the defensive side. And then, of course, Aaron Rodgers still dealing with the wrist. He may have a slightly different kind of cast on Sunday, but he said that that's something he's going to be working with the training staff and the equipment staff to figure out.
Hey, before we get your prediction, all that, real quick on Mike Tomlin, James Harrison, Ben Roethlisberger, both saying, hey, it might be time. But how people feel on the outside are often very different from the way owners feel. Do you feel like Mike Tomlin's job security is on the line, and will making the playoffs or not making it impact that decision?
It's one of those things where I feel like I have been in a version of this the last couple of years of these, wonderings and of speculation of whether or not, Art Rooney would make a move to part ways with Mike Tomlin. And I believe the same thing that I believe those other times, that if Mike Tomlin is no longer going to be the coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, that's going to be up to him to decide. He's still under contract, runs the 2027 season. Based on their history and his rapport and the wins that he's gotten for this organization and for Art Rooney, I don't see Art Rooney making that change and being the one to say, Mike, you have to go. I think it would have to be a mutual decision. And I don't think that former players like James Harrison and Ben Roethlisberger saying that are going to sway Art Rooney in that direction. Same thing with the fire Tomlin chance. I don't think that that's going to factor into Art Rooney's decision making. I just think that Mike Tomlin has built up too much trust with Art Rooney to have things end that way. But I could see him saying, I recognize that things have run their course here, that I am still a great coach, but I can go do it somewhere else. But I think that, there's still 5 games to go. And if they, somehow ripped off 5 straight wins and made the playoffs and won a game in the playoffs, then this conversation changes entirely.
Are you expecting Adam Thielen to be up Sunday?
Maybe. I mean, he was out of practice yesterday. They badly need some pass catchers. So, sure. Why not? It would not surprise me.
Man, they have been one-dimensional outside of DK, man. That's got to be so frustrating for Freiermuth and the rest of that wide receiver core. I know you're tight on time, practices beginning and whatnot. So are you ready for a prediction? I know it's Thursday. We typically have you on Friday. What's your feeling out there, Brooke?
I'm going to go 17-13 Ravens.
Ooh.
Actually, that's too low. 27-24 Ravens.
Careful,
what am I saying?
You sure it's too low, Brooke?
That sounds like a 2008 type prediction.
I know that 7, I think it's going to be a close game, but I think the Ravens win. That's my prediction. And now I'm sure I'm going to be absolutely wrong.
We hope not.
We appreciate you being willing to share it, though. We have your Twitter up on the screen. You can be found at BE Pryor. We'll link to it in the live chat. And anything you'd like to tease before you jump on out of here?
I will be on our show Vibe Check. It airs on Disney Plus tomorrow. New episodes come out at 5 p.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So check it out. I'll have more on Steelers Ravens on that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brooke.
I love all of our
guys.
guests, but you're one of my favorites. Thanks for continuing to come on.
Always love joining you guys.
Right.
See ya.
Totally agree. See ya, Brooke. Appreciate it. Braving the elements out there. How about it with the gloves and I love the headphones. You're not kidding, Sarah. That was good quality there in terms of her audio. So, guys, you always know the drill. These guys, these beat reporters especially, that are running around like nuts on Thursdays and Fridays trying to finalize the week are doing this out of their own generosity and carving in 15, 20 minutes here and there. So goes without saying, if you could just shoot her a follow, shoot her a tweet to say thanks. If you got something from it, we'd really appreciate that. We dropped that link into the live chat. Again, she can be found on X or Twitter at BE Pryor. A lot of interesting stuff there, Sarah, as usual.